It's time for another Out and About with Jamie Grout shortcast video from outandaboutwithjamiegrout.com. And of course, you can see the long form version of our podcast with Grinnell College President Ann Harris at outandaboutwithjamiegrout.com and all the podcast platforms, Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, and Apple Podcasts. But I am talking with Ann Harris, who is president of Grinnell College, and thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. Grinnell College, a great institution, but boy, you guys are really involved in the community. Tell us about that, Ann.
We really are. It's a long-term commitment. The mission of the college is to serve the common good. And so this idea goes way back to 1846, the college's founding. But we see it in our programs. We see it in our classrooms. We really see it now with Renfro Hall, which is our residence hall downtown, named for Mrs. Edith Renfro Smith, who is the first Black alumna of Grinnell, graduated in 1937, and was here for the dedication of Renfro Hall, having celebrated her 110th birthday. It was just amazing. So this is an entire building dedicated to community engagement, students who are dedicated to community engagement, and we have the Civic Innovation Pavilion where we come together to solve problems, to celebrate together, to do all this work.
And I know your vision is to be even more community involved
Yes.
as far as Grinnell College is concerned.
Yes. We really encourage that among our students. We have a student, for example, Caroline Cassidy, class of 2025, who came up with this idea of dining dollars, students being able to apply their meal plan monies into restaurants in downtown Grinnell. So that's a concrete example of economic vitality, but it's also neighborliness. It's also coming together. And my ambitions for Grinnell, and they're shared by faculty, staff, and students, is that we be a model to the world. What is a small community where people aren't always behind their phones and away from each other, where they're in community, they're talking to each other at the grocery store, at the voting booth, at the in the Civic Innovation Pavilion, and they're coming together to be in community, but also to make the community better.
Well, that is fantastic. And we talked a little bit on the podcast about Grinnell being called the Harvard of the Midwest. So, Ann, what is it that makes Grinnell the Harvard of the Midwest?
It's the people. It's the people. They come from all over the world. They come from all over the country. There were over 75 languages spoken at Grinnell. All but 3 states are represented this year. We're missing Vermont and Delaware and Wyoming, but we'll get there. And we all come together, and it is this clarity of purpose to serve the common good, coupled with academic excellence, and all these people who bring their energies and passions.
We talked a little bit about your scholarship program and financial aid and all that. Let's talk about that, because I learned some things about Grinnell College and helping students pay for their education that I did not know previously. I think that's really a badge of honor.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yes, it's something very intentional. Again, goes deep into the mission of the institution. But $77 million this year in financial aid is what the college is providing for families. We have lots of scholarships for Iowa families as well, founder scholarships and so forth. I think what I'm proudest of is that we are a no-loan institution. So the enormous majority of colleges, if you get a financial aid package, there'll be a loan obligation in there. No loan obligation at Grinnell, and we meet 100% of demonstrated needs. So it's possible to graduate without student debt.
Okay, let's discuss extracurricular activities on campus here.
Great. Well, all of them are open, free to the public. That is so important, again, for who we are and how we like to celebrate. And I will tell you, there is nothing more joyful than seeing students cheer each other on, whether they're applauding each other for a beautiful choral performance, or whether they're cheering each other on the football field or the basketball court or the volleyball court or any of these other spaces. Our theater program is very innovative. Our speakers who come to campus are all open to the public as well. So it's grinnell.edu, and then you just look up the calendar, and there we are. There's so much to do here.
At the start of our podcast, we talked about you being into medieval education and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Did you do theater somewhere along the line?
I didn't.
You seem like you might be a theater person. And see, the reason I know about some of this medieval stuff, I used to go with several theater people up to the Twin Cities to the Ren Fest all the time. And I learned a lot about that kind of thing. So I kind of had assumed that wrongly.
No, maybe that shaped me, though.
But what interests you so much about medieval times? I'm just really curious about that.
Yeah, my dad always said to me when I asked him, what should I do with my life? And he said, major in what you'll never have all the answers to. And I was fascinated by medieval society because it emerges after the fall of the Roman Empire and before we have a society that we recognize as a modern society. So I was fascinated with medieval culture because it was a culture that intentionally had to kind of recreate itself from the ashes. And so all that human creativity, all that will, and then all the very different human relationships, the relationships with the divine and so forth, utterly fascinating, endlessly interesting.
If people want to find out more about Grinnell College, how can they do that?
It'll be grinnell.edu, grinnell.edu, and we welcome you.
All right. This Out and About with Jamie Grout podcast with Ann Harris, president of Grinnell College. Thanks for joining us.